snow because of the frozen H2O molecules. Oh, I didn't see you there. You caught me off guard again. Well, today we're going to talk about atoms, the building blocks of matter. Atoms make up elements. Elements are substances that cannot be broken down into anything else simpler by ordinary chemical means. The whole group of elements are represented by the periodic table that shows all the elements that have been discovered. Before we go on to the elements though, first let's talk about what an atom is made up of. Inside of an atom, there is something called a nucleus. Now inside this nucleus, there are neutrons, which are neutral, and protons, which are positively charged. Then outside of this positively charged nucleus, there are electrons. Electrons are much smaller than the protons and neutrons, and they are arranged in what is called an electron cloud. Now this electron cloud is made up of shells of electrons. In the first shell, there are 2 electrons. It holds a maximum of 2. Then you get on to the second shell, it holds a maximum of 8 electrons. Now in this video, we're not going to go beyond there. In general, the outer shell of electrons is called the valence electron shell. Now these electrons are negatively charged, and they're very important in chemical bonding. So let's talk about ionic compounds. Ionic compounds are made when ions come together. One gives up an electron, the other takes the electron. For example, sodium chloride, NaCl. The sodium atom becomes positively charged because it gives up one of its electrons. Chlorine, which is negatively charged, takes the electron. So they come together to form a neutral compound, which is an ionic compound. So these ionic compounds are generally made up of a metal and a non-metal. In the case of the sodium chloride example, sodium, that element, was the metal, and the non-metal was the chlorine element. So now, there's ionic compounds, and then there's covalent compounds. In covalent compounds, the elements share their electrons. They don't give them up or take them from another one, they share them. And they're made up of non-metals, 2 or more non-metals. A common example is carbon dioxide, CO2. The carbon atoms and the oxygen atoms share their valence electrons to form a compound. Here's the periodic table. Now as you can see, most of the metals are on the left side of the periodic table. In the very center are the transition metals. Those are special types of metals. Then on the far right side, that's where all the nonmetals are. The very last column, or specifically the noble gases. Then in between the metals and the nonmetals, you have the metalloids. They form sort of a staircase going up the table. Now the periodic table is very important in chemistry. It tells a whole lot about all the elements that there are. One of the most important things you could say is for each element, it lists the atomic number for that element. Now the atomic number represents the number of protons that the element has. Each element has a different number of protons. It's what distinguishes that element. So the atomic number can be used for a variety of purposes. In this case, we can use it to show how a particular element is made up. So let's pick one for example. Let's say oxygen. Now the oxygen atom has an atomic number of 8. So that means it has 8 protons, 8 positively charged protons in its nucleus. Now in the case of neutral elements, which is what we're going to be dealing with here, the atomic number, the number of protons, is also going to be the same as the number of electrons. So there's 8 protons and there's 8 electrons. Now these 8 electrons are going to be arranged around the nucleus in the electron cloud that we said about earlier. So inside the nucleus, you're going to have your 8 protons, neutrons go along with those, then outside, in the first electron shell, there's going to be 2 electrons, second shell, there's going to be 6. Make a total of 8 electrons surrounding the nucleus. That's oxygen. So going back to this frozen H2O we talked about before, H2O is a covalent compound, water. It's made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom. Now H2O is all around us, including in the form of snow. Snow makes for a nice snowball fight. Now these are only the very basics of the atom and of chemistry, but we're not going to go any further from now. Take it from this guy.
You know, Josh, I understand completely what you're talking about these atoms and the snow and things. Over in Snowden, there is snow everywhere. You know, before I saw this commercial, I didn't have that much of an understanding about atoms. But now that I've seen your commercial, my understanding of atoms has skyrocketed into a vast cloud of knowledge and wisdom, where I understand this basic concept of chemistry. Thank you, Josh, for increasing my knowledge of this very important concept of life.
Well, there you have it, folks. And remember, atoms matter, so you won't shatter.
This commercial is brought to you by Infernal Productions. You can pretty much find this product anywhere, because atoms are everywhere. No application fees required.